Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, myself and BBD, as it is June 3rd. Hello, summer. And we're kind of out of the sports apocalypse a little bit. Hockey has one more series left, as BBD's Oilers have made it to the final against, unfortunately, the Panthers for us lifelong Ranger fans. And basketball, that doesn't start till Saturday. So if you've been someone who I've really been enjoying the late night puck, that's out. NBA starts Thursday. Maybe we'll cover a little bit of that Wednesday, probably more than we have, as the Celtics and Mavs tee it up. I've been indulging in a lot of that content between Simmons or Silo. Even listened to a little bit of is it Old Man in the Three? Is that Reddick's OG pod? Sweet Lorenzo of We Got Ice sent me that and said he was in heaven. I said, shut up, Zo. Please don't text me on the weekends. Let's keep barriers up. We're going to go around the league a little bit today. Probably going to mention my Yankees at some point because they are awesome. Best team in the league. 2 hitters just in a straight other dimension right now. In another dimension. It's one of those commercials that keeps popping up. I want to go through some of the league leaders. We're coming up on all JM this week for talking baseball. Not necessarily league leaders, but some guys that when I opened up the baseball pages, I was surprised to see their names. And I'm going back into Houston. I know I was doing a lot of stuff early on with them. I know I was trying to be the first guy to kind of hit the siren and say, let's go. They kind of did enough for a little bit, and then they've stopped. That we've got a June in Houston that kind of decides the next steps for that franchise. Dramatic, but I also really believe in it. So I want to talk through that a little bit, and let's do it. Let's start there. Houston just lost 3 out of 4 to Seattle, and then they lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota. They had one hot streak. If you remember, they won 6 in a row at one point. They also won, 8 out of 9, including the final game against the Yankees, Detroit, Oakland, and they won a Milwaukee series. That Milwaukee's been playing amazing this year. They had another weekend where they just went absolutely nuts offensively. Started daydreaming today when they get Devin Williams back. That team has a lot of fight on and off the field as they started maybe their 4th or 5th brawl over the weekend. But I wanted to look at Houston more. I wanted to look back at their series just to see how we've gotten to this point. How have we gotten to June 3rd? The Houston Astros are 26-34. So even my 8-2 in 10 games theory that I throw out there, that's a little out the window. I mean, that would get them to 500. We've only seen them put one of those stretches together. So I want to walk through kind of what they've got leading up to the trade, or not the trade deadline, the All-Star break. And it's actually a little bit of good news for Houston, but we'll also see, because they need to put something together. And if you also hear that little panic in my voice, sure, do the, okay, Yankees fan wants to see the end of Houston. That's all John Boy Media's ever wanted. Whose voice was that? That's someone in Staten Island Astros fan? Not a lot of those from everything I see from the Scarlatta twins Instagrams. They start out, so this is their final stretch leading to the All-Star break. You're talking a little over a month. It's June 3rd. Their last game is July 14th. So 7 weeks, something like that. St. Louis, sure. St. Louis shockingly is the last wild card team in the National League right now. But again, they are under 500. and they are neck and neck with teams like the Giants and a couple others that to call them a playoff team at this point would be a little bit of a fib, although they're a little bit on the up and up. So let's see what we've got from our Cardinals. The Angels, who are now heading towards White Sox territory, they are big bad. Their season is over. They're playing for other things at this point. That when the Angels are on the calendar, teams are now thinking not only win the series, but sweep. They'll head to San Francisco, who the Yankees just embarrassed at the party, pulled down their pants. I don't know what to think about San Francisco. To be honest, what Judge and Soto did to them is kind of unfair. I think they both had OPSs closer to 2 than 1.
Yeah.
I think Judge's was in the 2s.
Yeah. I don't know if you could say this anymore in 2024. I like emasculated them.
I mean, getting Doval in that final inning was one of the more exciting innings I've watched in a little while. Anyways, let me get back to it.
Houston. It's a Houston topic.
It's a Houston topic, which turns into a Yankees topic because Houston has been the big bad wolf. So St. Louis, Angels, San Francisco, Detroit. I mean, Detroit, San Francisco, St. Louis. Put them all in the same bucket that, I don't know, you could sweep those teams or you could lose 2 out of 3, but
if you're somebody who's high on Detroit, a month ago, the Astros took care of business against them.
I don't know if anyone's feeling passionate about Detroit, San Francisco, or St. Louis right now. If anyone, it's probably St. Louis who's playing a little bit of a better brand. They then have the medicine themselves, the Chicago White Sox for 3 in Chi-Town. One of the 2 bona fide playoff teams that they'll be playing, Baltimore for 3. That'll be at home. They're at the New York Mets, at Toronto, and at Minnesota. Toronto, all the headlines about them are currently selling, although they're trying to do enough to not do that. Either way, unless things go horribly, horribly wrong for Toronto, at that point, the first week of July, they're either completely fighting for their season or it's over. At Minnesota, Minnesota's gotten back to a good standing. I've been tough on them. They had their 1 win streak. There was a lot of the White Sox and Angels. I'm not bought in. They just got Royce Lewis back. Pablo Lopez had his best start. The Twins deserve some respect as a good baseball team. Here you go, Twins. Miami, yikes. And then the Texas Rangers heading into the All-Star break, who they haven't really figured it out. They just got a decent Max Scherzer update. I think he was throwing, and I don't think there was any pain after, so we'll see when we see him. Either way, the long and the short of that is 12 series left for Houston leading into the All-Star break. Only 2 bona fide playoff teams. 3 versus Baltimore at home, and then 3 at Minnesota. So I was kind of coming into this exercise wondering if we were going to drive a final stake through them. I've been looking for that all year, and I guess there is a little desperation from the Yankee side. But I would also just say as a baseball person, a lot of the Houston fun facts when we roll through them are insane. I mean, the 7 straight ALCSs, that's something that you don't think you'll see with, like, the randomness of baseball. We saw the Snakes sweep the Dodgers last year. Nobody had that. They've got a chance. That being said, they have currently played 19 series. They've won 8. They've lost 10, and they tied 1. The bigger thing that was more, I don't know if it's impressive or depressive. Is depressive a word? Depressing?
Depressing for sure is a word.
Depressive, I don't know. In the 10 series they've lost, they've been swept in 4 of them. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. The only series they swept was Oakland during their win streak. So they've had a couple things going for them. The offensive numbers are still pretty wild. This is a team 6th in OPS, 4th in home runs, 3rd in batting average. The bullpen numbers are starting to get to a better place. I think a lot of that is Hader, a little bit of Brian Abreu back throwing the pill for them. I also think Taylor Scott went nuts for a stretch, your favorite South African baseball player. JV, Hunter Brown has put a couple together after struggling. I keep saying, back against the wall, waiting for the stretch, whatever bad equation there is. They still have the room. They're 7.5 games back of your Seattle Mariners, who I guess I've been apologizing to. In my core of core, I still don't fully believe because I think they need another twig. But again, I keep saying half glass full, half glass empty, that they haven't hit at all, and they're still sitting pretty well. That if anything clicks, whether that's Julio, whether that's Mitch Garver that had a big, essentially game-winning hit over the weekend. Polanco's on the IL for them. I was just trying to go briefly, wondering what to talk about today. I'd love a big lefty bat for Seattle. I think pair it with Julio. You've got switch hitters. I think, Josh Rojas, who is kind of broken out for them. I was looking at the teams that are like completely broken that will be selling, and there wasn't a ton of options at this point. The only guy that's always interesting to me is Ryan McMahon, he's actually going nuts. Not nuts this year. He's playing really well. Up until this point, he's having his best season. He's been a streaky player, and I don't know if he's just had a good 2 months to start the year and the other shoe's about to drop. He's also a guy I just love to see get away from my Rockies, unfortunately. That I was daydreaming him in Seattle. But again, I don't know how far that gets them. Anyways, we'll see which other teams fade towards the deadline and who needs what and where. But Seattle, it'd be really nice to add a hitter into that mix of any variety. For Houston, this is where things get really interesting for me because, are we seeing the last phase of maybe this part of the dynasty? I'm not saying everything's over. Like, Jordan is locked up. Altuve is locked up. Peña's part of the next part of this. The bigger questions come. Alex Bregman is going to be a free agent, and with him, it seems very, I don't want to say Correa-y, but it seems like they've flirted enough up until this point that it's probably going to lead somewhere else. Alex Bregman has started to turn it on after a very slow start to the season, but it's a baseball reference I enthuse you to go look at. Because one of my favorite things is when hitters are always positive, and he is always positive. That 2019 from the Juicy Ball times, that's a little bit of an outlier. But other than that, he's been like a 120, 130-plus career OPS plus while playing very good defense at third base. 2022 and 2023 are very similar seasons. And after his slow start, let me get the splits back up for you. Wow, he's really struggled versus lefties this year. That's interesting. And he struggled on the road. He had an awful April, March, a 577 OPS. An okay May, a 719 OPS. And he's had two good games in June that he's picking up. In his last 28 days, he's got an 829 OPS. So that's a little more Alex Bregman's lane. Good for him. Good for Gleyber Torres. When we talked about two of the free agents that have really been struggling, they've started playing to the back of their baseball card a little bit. And good for them because it's hitting that point of the season where if you're not again, we've seen a couple big-time young guys get sent down over the weekend. Torkelson got sent down. Eddie Julien, unofficial, official. That was Trevor Plouffe kind of reporting that.
I think I saw unofficial.
I think it's official. Reed Detmers, that one really snuck up on me. If Alex Bregman continues what he's done for the last month, and he's Alex Bregman, let's say the Astros, they just don't figure it out, which they haven't up until this point. Let's say they go 500 this month, which, again, they have not done that up until this point. If they go 500 this month, they are 8 games below 500. The American League wildcard, like I've told you, has already sorted out a little bit. Alex Bregman, who is hitting free agency, and it doesn't seem like he's coming back. I could be wrong. I mean, if Houston ponies up the best offer.
And the season he's having, I guess maybe that increases the chances, but
don't know.
Houston has shown they're willing to let guys you would consider franchise faces walk.
Springer, Correa, we've done it a little bit before. Alex Bregman is 30 years old. I'm not going to bet against him going back to his bad April numbers. I'm going to assume he's going to stay with it. He's been one of the best players in baseball the last week or so. Or you could say the past couple years. The one that would get really interesting for me, and again, there's a wry smile on my face because all of this could be thrown out the window pretty instantly. I want to talk about my guy King Tuck, because he has taken his game to another level. 178 OPS plus, 974 OPS, 19 homers. He's been leading in home runs until Aaron Judge went insane in San Francisco over the weekend and the last month in general. I've talked about this before. Kyle Tucker is lined up for a massive payday. Massive payday. He will become a free agent in a year and a half. I never know how to read that right. It says 2026, which actually means 2025.
Like 2025 is the last year.
The last season he plays. Kyle Tucker would have a year and a half left. He is 5-tool. He had... These are his last couple seasons with home runs. 30, 30, 29. Can basically pencil that in. Although he's already got 19, so 27-year-old Kyle Tucker, maybe even elevating to another level. He had 30 stolen bases last year while leading the league in RBI. He had 25 stolen bases the year before that. 5th in MVP last year. Little reminder, sometimes guys get better, especially at age 26 and 27. If this new top 5 MVP Kyle Tucker is there, I just talked about Seattle being excited to trade for Ryan McMahon, who has a career OPS plus under 100. That gets cooked by Coors Field. I don't fully believe in it. The potential ransom that Houston could get for Kyle Tucker in a year and a half of his services, it's something the Astros would have to consider. And this is a franchise that has been ahead of everything. I mean, 7 straight ALCSs. They have been the bee's knees. You wonder if they would look in the mirror, if things don't get better, if they don't get till 500 by July 1st, if they don't get to 500 by the trade deadline, and where's the rest of the AL wildcard standings? Because right now, those Minnesota Twins are the last team, and they are at 33 and 26. Houston's 7.5 games back of the wild card. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams ahead of them. And when we're talking expanded wild card, sometimes it's better to look at those teams because that means you have to be better than them. I know that sounds obvious. Toronto is 3 games ahead of them, and all everyone has talked about for Toronto for 2 weeks is if they're trading Vlad and Bichette. Like, why hasn't there been Bregman and Tucker? It's because everyone thinks Houston's coming, and they probably are because they probably have. They also could not be. What's Fangraphs has their playoff percentage at? Fangraphs has Houston as 33% to make the playoffs. That takes in previous season. That takes in what's going on the field this year. 1 out of 3. And that's if they're turning things around. So I don't know, a franchise that's been complimented a lot for, being the best, essentially. If they stay like this, Alex Bregman and Kyle Tucker, again, supply and demand a little bit with all these other teams being in the wild card, what could you get for them? And how close could that help you out? Because Jordan's locked up. Pena and Altuve are still going to be there. So if you can do a quick little flip, Yainer Diaz, although he hasn't been as locked in this year, and that's before getting to like Justin Verlander. So I don't know. No one is going to believe Houston is dead until they are DED dead. And they've kind of got a decent schedule lined up. So can look back July 1st, July 14th, whenever it is, and say, wow, I wasted 2.5 Wake and Jake episodes on Houston being down and out. But my God, if it stays like this, that kind of forces their hand. And imagine what they could get for JV, for Tucker, for Breggy. It would sting a little bit. It would be the smart move if it stays like this. Let's see where we're at in a month. But it's go time for them. And they've had 1 week and a half stretch of good baseball. Everything else has not been. So let's see the next steps with the Houston Astros. There's a genuine hesitation in my voice. We're John Boy Media. My guy in the Astros scandal, that's linked together forever. When they do documentaries, they hit us up. It's part of the story, right? Houston made a piñata of him. Pretty bad looking. But for that, sorry, I just got distracted by someone. My next words weren't going to be for that. We are linked with Houston, and I never want to start beef with them because there is a group of teenage kids that will always try to ruin our internet experience. And part of me gets it and respects it. Seeing that Houston is 3 games back of Toronto, literally for 2 weeks, all we've talked about is how the Toronto Blue Jays should sell Vlad or Bo. Is it over in Toronto? Blah, blah, blah. Houston's 3 games behind that. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm beautiful. Let's see. For all of these coin flip teams they're playing, everyone's taking advantage of the White Sox. Everyone's taking advantage of the Angels. It's the St. Louis's, the San Francisco's, the Detroits, Toronto. Houston needs to take care of that business. And hey, maybe we'll be talking about the 16-8 month where they're standing on their business. But that would get them to 500, and that would be one of the best months we've seen out of any team. Out of my Yankees that look incredible, and they look like an old Yankees team with only 2 guys, 1 dotting in baseball. That's currently a lie. Marcell Ozuna, 1.001. And maybe that'll segue me into just some league leaders that jumped off the page that I wanted to tell everyone about. Because it starts with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. I mentioned that Ozuna, unfortunately, is 1 dotting as of today. Judge is at 1.075. I could round out to 108. Juan Soto is at 1.031. They have the same on-base percentage, 417. Aaron Judge is putting together one of the best 28-game stretches we've ever seen in baseball. Juan Soto is leading in batting average, which I think I said on Talking Yanks last night is probably his 4th skill you'd talk about. And another thing to watch out with Juan Soto, he gets better as the year goes on. I talked a little bit on here and on other platforms that April is traditionally his worst month. Juan Soto kind of gets better as the year goes on. So him and Aaron Judge are lining up for what potentially could be a summer to remember and hopefully an October to remember. Shout-outs to the 2 NLDHs we've talked about a lot. It's then Ozuna and Shohei up there. who Shohei's in a little bit of a funkerino right now, but you know that's going to come out of it. Next in the American League in OPS, it's Kyle Tucker. So think about that. Judge, Soto, Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker plays good defense. Kyle Tucker steals bases, and he's doing what those guys do. So again, just put that in the Astros equation. Could someone give them a Godfather offer for a year and a half of Tucker? Someone that's willing to pay him? I don't know. I'm trying to think who that team would be. That be a Braves nuclear move? Feels like they've had one spot in their outfield open.
Yeah.
Ronnie's out. I don't know. I'm daydreaming a little bit. Who else would it be? Brewers won it, right? Could they?
I feel like the Mariners like to have one real contract at all times. In division's
tough.
Can't really look into it. Since you said looking for left-handed hitters for Seattle, I've been trying to find the guy that makes sense, and I haven't found it.
Kyle Tucker, is the guy, but I
just can't see it.
I just don't see that happening. Other guys who deserve love, some quick hitters. Brent Rooker is 9th overall in OPS in baseball. Jurickson Profar is 10th. So those are two guys that have been discussed a little bit. I mean, Rooker off the scrap heap gets the chance to play with Oakland. Good for him, following up a really good first half last year where he faded out. Jurickson Profar, irrelevant to maybe all-star starter in baseball.
1 year, $1 million.
Not bad. It's going to do better than that coming up. A couple other guys that are just oddly high on the list, and we'll see how the rest of the season sorts out. Wiley Abreu, dude, Red Sox fans, let me know. I've never been less familiar with a young Red Sox player who's doing well. Kind of came out of left field, literally. Like Rafaela is the young guy that we heard about. Couple others. Abreu's going nuts. He's 26th in OPS. He's right behind Yordan Alvarez. Good for that dude. Jordan Westberg is at 19th. Pretty crazy. And then, you start to get into this weird hodgepodge section of guys that are just playing well. Davis Schneider, Tovar, and Connor Joe. Let me get away from this page before you guys turn me off. I think the other thing that I wanted to highlight amongst the lead leaguers, maybe even the league leaders, dude. I'm going to read you off the top 5 in ERA right now and tell me what they have in common.
Oh.
Ranger Suarez.
Okay.
Seth Lugo.
Okay.
Reynaldo Lopez.
Okay.
Tanner Houck.
Mm-hmm.
Luis Heel.
Ooh. Thought we were heading towards an extensive time in the bullpen in their
I
career
kind
thing.
of was. I guess Heel doesn't. He's just a kid. I guess people thought he was going to be a bullpen pitcher. Pitcher?
Some people still kind of did.
Right.
But
no, I mean, he started all throughout the minors. So I guess I should just
He hasn't gotten to actually do that.
I should just chop him out and do the top 4. Although, I mean, did Ranger Suarez even... Yeah, Ranger was like a real reliever.
Yeah.
Like reliever into swingman. So I guess that's where I should have said it, but Yankees Jake had to get Luis Heel in there.
Had to slip him in. He had, during that breakout year, first playoff run season the Phillies had. Was that year? Anyway, he had a reliever to closer to starter. He did every role that year.
Yeah,
It was freaky.
2019 he was a full-blown reliever.
Yeah.
2020, weird 3 games. And then, that 2021 season where he really broke out, he was like a true swingman for them. So, again, analytics department, Jake, I have no clue what to do with that. But Seth Lugo spent a career in the bullpen. Reynaldo Lopez spent a career in the bullpen. Houck essentially got kicked out and was fighting for 5th or 6th starter stuff this year. So how about this? I'll kick it to you, the people, because I'm not really sure what that crew has in common, but I'm sure it's something. But yeah, pretty wild to see a bunch of relievers succeeding at starting pitcher, because that almost like never happens.
Yeah.
Or at least I've been on this a little bit with what we found out about Tommy John and that your elbow doesn't fully develop till 27. I think we're going to start seeing more of this.
And there's always been guys who like had like a stint in a relief
Right.
role, and like there's things to be learned by just getting outs in the big leagues in any level.
Like Ranger Suarez is, I don't want to say it's kind of standard, but we've seen this. You get called up, you start as a reliever. Yeah.
Lugo Lopez into their 30s, like you said, full careers worth of relief appearances.
Relief careers for Lugo and Lopez. As I go down the list, I don't know. The only other clear outlier, and if your team is looking for pitching, Tyler Anderson of the Angels. Did not know how good of a year he's having. 2.47 ERA.
Knew he was doing well. Wouldn't have guessed that.
Has that
Thought in the threes.
Has that little hitch in his giddy up. It's working. Final shout out from me, Gavin Stone.
I was just about to say his name.
Holy smokes. And how about his little bro Colin from the warehouse playing some banana ball?
Yeah.
Playing against the Savannah Bananas. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, Colin Stone, who does warehouse stuff with us, a teammate with K-Mac, I might be losing more of you. His brother, Gavin Stone, on the Dodgers, and he's been shoving this year. 62 innings, a 2.9 ERA. He has a really nice changeup. If you visually like a good right-handed changeup, Gavin Stone is your guy. And that's my little around the league.
The other one that kind of stuck out to me on the ERA leader, Eric Fetty. He's doing it. And again, guy knew was having a good year. 3.12 ERA. The White Sox are going to have themselves a deadline. That's found money.
He will be on a different team.
That's found money.
I'm interested to see what he gives to you. That's kind of all I got today, people. Like I mentioned, the sports apocalypse kind of ended. Wednesday, it starts to pick up again. We will see you back here on Wednesday. Maybe we'll do a fun twist around baseball with probably some NBA preview and probably not some NHL preview. Panthers play boring. Edmonton plays fun. Do with that what you want. Tell them, Beebs.
Wake and Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.